Welcome back, adventurers and friends, to Adventurers in Words, Let's Talk series. To those who are here for the first time, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Just a reminder to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. It's free. Don't forget to hit the notification bell if you would like to know when I post new videos. Today, we will be talking about accepting and valuing yourself, along with ways to embrace who you are. So get comfy cozy, open your heart, open your mind, and let's get into it. I'm going to start off with a quote from Brene Brown. You are imperfect, and you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. I remember when my husband was trying to convince me I should start my website and podcast, saying I had everything in me to be successful, but I had an argument to counter every bit of encouragement. There was no shortage of ways I believed I was good enough. He was trying to help me see myself the way he saw me, as someone who is intelligent, capable, full of potential, and relatable. I wasn't fully buying it, though. I've been pretending for so long to be a better person than I really believed myself to be. I thought any positive thing another person said about me was just an indication that he was fooled by my illusion. If he could see who I really was, he would change his mind about me. I was tired of trying to convince him that I wasn't actually as good as I'd been pretending to be. In desperation, I finally asked the question I thought would end the conversation. Tears streaming down my face and the muscles in my chest squeezed so tightly that I could hardly choke out the words. Do you have any idea how much I hate myself? Yes, he said, I do. And I have stood by watching you beat yourself up internally for years. I was taken aback, actually. I guess I'd expected my revelation to shock him. Apparently, I hadn't been hiding my self-loathing as well as I thought. Part of me was relieved to know that maybe someone did actually see how much I was hurting. At the same time, I was terrified to discover that anyone could see more of me than I chose to reveal. I didn't trust that he or anyone else could ever really understand. Looking back, I think he did understand more than I originally gave him credit for. He may not have known exactly what I was feeling, but he knew what it was to hate oneself. He had hated himself too. While I was filled with self-loathing, my life was focused on keeping others from seeing who I really was. I didn't like myself and couldn't see how it was possible for anyone else to like me either. I hid while pretending to be someone I hoped was more lovable. I chased after accomplishments to prove to myself and to others that I was worthy of love, but it was never enough. I couldn't do or be all the things I thought were expected of me. There was always something more to prove. For years, I thought life would always be that way. But recently, I was surprised to realize that I don't hate myself anymore. Of course, there are still plenty of things about myself I wish were different, but my self-loathing is being replaced by self-acceptance. I didn't set out specifically to learn how to stop hating myself. I didn't think that was possible. Instead, I was searching for direction in terms of a career. I was wondering how to make friends. I read books and articles, listened to podcasts, and even worked with a life coach with the hope of making myself better. There wasn't a particular experience or single idea that made the difference. What I found is an array of small practices and simple concepts that are helping me learn to embrace who I am. The shift has been gradual enough that I didn't notice how much I had changed until I relived the memory of that old conversation. I'm no longer paralyzed by the belief that no matter what I do, I will never be worthy of love. I'm slowly learning to trust and value myself for who I am, even as I acknowledge that there's always room for growth. So I want to break this down a little bit and talk about it in sections. The first section, and this is going to come from my perspective of my experiences, in hopes that you can relate to them as well. And also for you to know that you're not alone out there. I think all of us struggle. So I'm going to put myself out there, and expose myself, vulnerable and all. Okay, here we go. First section is allowing myself to be a work in progress. I've put a lot of pressure on myself to always know what I'm doing and never make mistakes. I've missed opportunities to try something new because I was so afraid of looking stupid and silly. I've given up on things that I want to do because I couldn't do them as well as I thought I should. Being a beginner is just plain uncomfortable, but we all have to start somewhere. I'm learning that my value doesn't come from getting everything right the first time. Instead, it's actually the mistakes and failures and trying again that help me learn and grow. I can be proud of myself for being willing to practice again and again. It's the baby steps, tiny changes, and consistent willingness to try again that develop the qualities I hope to embody. Second, being curious about who I am. For much of my life, I defined myself by the ways I didn't measure up to the person I thought others expected me to be. I didn't know who I was, only who I was not. I've started shifting my questions. Instead of wondering why I don't care about what's supposed to matter to me, I'm discovering what does matter to me. Instead of looking to others for clues about what I should think, I'm asking myself, what do I actually think? I'm learning that being different from someone else doesn't necessarily mean one of us is wrong. Recognizing that there's more than one right way to be is freeing me from starting to explore my own strengths. It gives me the opportunity to do that and to discover and explore my personality, my values, and my preferences. So this brings me to number 3, letting go of what I can't control. And I think that this is something, honestly, that we all struggle with to a degree, some more so than others. But I think we all have that innate feeling that we need to control so that we have some sort of control over our lives, honestly. But I've fallen into the trap of believing that if I could just do and say all the right things, then people would like me. I've made it my responsibility to try to make sure the people around me are always happy. And that's a lot of pressure. The thing is, I can't control what others think of me or how they experience life. I can only be responsible for my own actions and intentions. I'm learning to focus more of my time and energy on living in a way that reflects my personal values instead of trying to control other people's perceptions. So this brings me to number 4, doing things that scare me. A lot of things scare me. I have let my fear hold me back from many things I want to do. I have hated myself for being a coward. I'm learning that bravery isn't the absence of fear. Courage is not something a person either has or doesn't. Fear does not just go away if we wait long enough. I want to have deep friendships, but inviting an acquaintance to get together for coffee or introducing myself to someone I admire online feels vulnerable. What if she or he doesn't like me? What if I say the wrong thing? The thing is, I don't always click with everyone I talk to. But through taking the risk to reach out, I've met some pretty wonderful friends. Every time I do something that scares me, I build trust that I'm capable of doing more than I previously believed possible, and that a failure isn't the end. I'm learning to work with my fear instead of letting it define me. That brings me to number 5. Now, this one I really hope that you all can just give me some leniency on this one. Chatting with my inner critic. And the way that I'm going to put this might seem kind of crazy, but I think that a lot of you would be able to relate to this. And I hope that you do, so that you get some ideas on how to cope and deal with things. My inner critic can be insistent and quite mean. For the longest time, I believed everything she said about me and accepted the way she talked to me. Then I started paying attention to what I was actually saying about myself. What if some of the awful things I believed about myself weren't actually true? How might my life be different if I talked to myself with encouragement instead of criticism? One of my favorite ways to question the critical thoughts inside my head and translate them into more helpful language is to write out a dialogue with my inner critic in my journal. Stay with me here. In these back and forth conversations, I can uncover what my inner critic is trying to accomplish by being so mean. As counterintuitive as it seems, often she's actually trying to protect me. She tells me I'm awkward and annoying and hopes that I'll be careful to only say things that are sure to win approval. Or even better, that I'll stay home where there's no risk of being rejected. She tries to discourage me from sharing my writing anywhere it might be criticized by warning me I'll never measure up to all the other amazing writers out there. When I take the time to understand the motivations beyond my inner critic's harsh words, I can decide for myself which risks I'm willing to take instead of just believing I'm not good enough. I can also start shifting how I talk to myself by asking her to rephrase her concerns in a kinder way. I know that sounds crazy, but really, look to yourself in your inner critic. Have that conversation. Honestly, it's freeing and it's an eye-opener. And what brought me to this next question and the next area I thought was important. And that's asking myself what I think. I have a tendency to try to figure out what other people think before deciding what I'll do or think or say. I've made a lot of decisions based on what I believe other people think I should do. When those decisions aren't a good fit for me, I'm quick to assume it's an indication that there's something wrong with me. I'm learning that I can consider other people's opinions without denying my own. Disagreeing doesn't have to mean I'm wrong. When I take the time to ask myself what I think, I get to know myself better, reinforce my trust in my own value, and choose a life that's right for me. This brings me to number 7. Feeling all my emotions. I used to think certain emotions were wrong to feel. I didn't believe I had the right to feel angry, or sad, or hurt, because there was always someone who had it worse than me. And there are. I try to suppress my feelings, but they get stuck inside and lash out in unexpected ways. I hated myself for not being able to control how I felt. But there is no quota on feelings. Feeling my emotions doesn't take away from anyone else's experience. On the contrary, it increases my compassion for others. How I feel doesn't make me good or bad, but it does give me information about what's going on inside me. I'm getting curious about what is behind the emotions I'm feeling, instead of criticizing myself for feeling them. It's not my job to control how I feel. It is my job to choose my response to those feelings. It brings me to number 8, making space for fun and joy. I used to feel guilty when I took time for anything fun. I didn't think I deserved it. Hard work and sacrifice were the only true noble uses of time. That's what I thought. These days, I intentionally make space in my schedule to do the things I really enjoy. Sewing, experimenting with art supplies, walking in nature. Not only does having fun energize me, it also reminds me that I'm worthy of care. I'm learning so much about myself and how I can create more beauty and connection in this world. Number 9, sharing vulnerably with another person. This one's really hard for me. Self-hatred prompted me to hide from others. I tried to only show a version of myself that I thought would be accepted. I was terrified I'd be rejected and alone if people knew the truth about me. It's hard to let another person see my fears, my disappointments, and my hopes. I don't want anyone to know I make mistakes. It's painful enough to hate myself. I couldn't bear the thought of other people hating me too. But it's actually when I'm willing to share my vulnerable parts with others that I'm reminded I'm not alone. We all have struggles. I can choose to hide mine or give another person an opportunity to support me. And that brought me to this next one. Another part of being vulnerable. Number 10, asking others how they see me. I have a tendency to assume I know what others think of me, and I tend to assume it's bad. Making these assumptions keeps me from knowing the truth about how others actually see me. It's scary. It also denies the support and encouragement they try to give me. One of the scariest exercises I've done is asking people close to me to share what our relationship means to them, what they see as my strengths, and what qualities they like about me. It feels so presumptuous to ask another person to say something nice about me. What if they think I'm arrogant? What if they can't think of anything positive to say? And yet, in taking that risk, I get a glimpse of myself from another perspective. Sometimes I get stuck filtering my view of myself through all the ways I believe I'm not good enough. I need someone else to point out the parts of myself I just can't see. I think maybe this is something you should try. It's a scary territory to walk, but I think it might open your eyes. I think you'd be surprised. Number 11, compiling evidence. I still often default to focusing on the ways I don't measure up. Sometimes I need a reminder of the best parts of who I am. I'm continually working to develop a habit of noticing the qualities I value instead of just looking for the things to criticize. I journal most days, and I reserve the last 3 lines of the page for a set of small lists. I look back over the previous day and list what I am grateful for, evidence that I am loved, and ways that I am good enough. Each day, these lists help me practice looking for my worth instead of just all the ways I fall short. When I'm feeling low, it's hard to remember the good things about myself. I keep a small notebook where I record compliments and positive comments others make about me, as well as the things I'm learning to value about myself. I turn back to this notebook when my opinion of myself could use a boost. So here's my final thoughts. We need to realize that we don't have to wallow in self-hatred, but leaping straight to self-love can feel impossible. Instead, we can make small shifts and adopt simple practices to help us learn to accept and value who we are right now, even as we continue to change and grow. Choose one idea or practice to try this week. Remember, you're allowed to be a work in progress. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace, and always, always love yourself. Thank you for joining me.